Hello, everyone. I'm Piotr. I work for Erlang Solutions. I've been in the company for about 15 years already. So participated in quite a few sales calls and meetings over this time, and I decided that I would like to share some knowledge I gained over this time and some insight in the process of selling the BIM technologies. The title of the presentation that you see here is a bit different than the official title because I would like to begin the webinar with a small example. Imagine that you are a biologist and you meet this gentleman, and also imagine that he doesn't know anything about cats. He maybe heard a bit about them, but he was born like 2 weeks ago, generated by AI. So, he doesn't have that much knowledge about the world in the general. So we want to sell them a cat. We are biologists, we want to sell a cat, and we need to explain what cat is, what are the benefits of having a cat, what are the features of a cat, and so on. And let's assume that we will use the standard jargon of a biologist to promote a cat. And it would go perhaps something like this. Felis catus is a terrestrial endothermic vertebrate within the class Mammalia and order Carnivora. It exhibits a standard tetraploid configuration with 4 ambulatory appendages terminating in retractile claws, adapted for efficient locomotion and prey manipulation. Its integument is uniformly covered in keratinized filamentous structures, commonly referred to as fur, serving primary roles in thermoregulation and environmental interfacing. The organism is obligate carnivore, requiring tissue-derived nutrients for metabolic homeostasis. Dentition includes well-developed carnassials optimized for sharing flesh. Its digestive tract is correspondingly abbreviated, lacking significant fermentative chambers typical of herbivorous taxa. So with this, you can have a small taste of how our interlocutor could feel like when we start the standard technical talk that we do sometimes when we want to promote the technology that we work with and we want to sell this particular situation. And to continue with this example, let's see what could be the replacement of this complicated speech that we just gave. So I began with Felis catus, the terrestrial, and so on, but it actually can be summarized as something as simple as cat lives on the land and eats meat, something that probably every person would understand. Then for the next text fragment, it can be replaced with Mother Nature made an excellent hunter. So we even drop this formal tone a bit and adjust the message to the audience that might appreciate this lighter tone of speech. Next one. Another fragment, it simply means it has fur for protection, and this fur is pleasant to touch. And also another example, if we take a fragment, visual systems are binocular and with reflective retinal structures to enhance low light perception. Well, it's accurate, but it sounds much better if we just say it sees well in the dark. It's much more understandable to the audience. Overall, instead of this long text that might confuse the audience, the recipient of the message, in order to convince that gentleman that we saw a moment ago to adopt or buy a cat, we could say something as simple as, cat is a friendly, independent, and useful pet. It is relaxing to touch its soft fur and listen to its purring. It doesn't require frequent attention. It can keep your house mice free. So we describe what it is, what are the benefits of having a cat, both practical and aesthetical. So to summarize this example, I want to present you parówka, sausage in English. It's maintained by my junior developers, and it shows the power of models and prototypes. What you can see here, of course, is just a toy, and it doesn't perfectly resemble what a cat looks like, or let's say works like. But overall, it presents the general idea, the concept of a cat. 4 legs, tail, the configuration of eyes, that it's pleasant to touch and looks nice, uh, and so on. Enough with this example. Let's go to the more specific stuff. So being a salesperson, evangelist, and smooth talker. I would like to explain why I put this image here, because when I started creating this section for the webinar, I, re I recalled a moment in my life when I was working for a customer in France. Me and my family, we lived in Paris for 6 months. And then we went to some food market there, and it was something completely different that we've seen or experienced so far in our home country, because we saw these salespeople just maybe not aggressively but enthusiastically promoting their merchandise. So they are just giving away free samples of mandarin oranges, of bananas, or some other fruit. And it was so much different, and it was inspirational actually. And I thought that we could take this example and follow this example, that we should also be as enthusiastic and think about maybe not free samples necessarily, but uh, present how happy we are about the product, and go out to the people that might be our actual customers, not just sit and wait until they approach us. So we have to go out and approach them and present what we have and believe in our product. I've compiled a collection of practical vocabulary that you can use while talking to potential customers, that could replace the buzzwords of the usual terms that we tend to use out of habit in such discussions, such calls or meetings. So first of them would be distributed, which can be translated to something as simple as that application can easily grow with the user base. Distributed is something that the technical person could easily understand. Maybe a non-technical person that works closely with someone technical could also understand, but we sometimes have to convince people that are not that familiar with all of these aspects of these buzzwords to use our technology, because, well, it's great. That's simple, but we need to explain why it's great in words that are familiar to person that doesn't work closely with technology. It might be some C-level, but not necessarily CTO, for example. So we start with distributed. Now we go to fault tolerant, which translates into higher customer satisfaction thanks to an application that is always up. Then we have a lightweight actor model, which translates into the property that it's cheaper to serve the same traffic than with other technologies. Beam languages have the property of the dynamic typing, which actually means that it's easier and quicker to create prototypes or develop new features. We could mention that Erlang was created at Ericsson in the 80s, so discuss its pedigree, let's say. But in my opinion, it's better to focus on the contemporary uses and the big companies, the big names that use the technology already and are happy about it. So, for example, Cisco, WhatsApp, and so on. I'm going to talk about these companies a bit more later. The next example is soft real time, which could be translated into actual benefit in an application that's being developed. So let's assume that the customer has a messaging application, and soft real time could mean that the message is delivered with more predictable latency in more predictable time, or simply that the list of messages will load in some specified time more quickly, and so on. We also have advanced inspection capabilities, which simply translates into the possibility to investigate what's wrong in the system, what went wrong, what could be happening in the production or test system, so the developers can react more efficiently to any kind of issues. We could mention that Elixir has Ruby-inspired syntax, but what actually it means to most of the teams is that it has low barrier to entry. It's easier to adapt to teams. For teams that already know some other technology, specifically Ruby, for example, but not necessarily, are simply more proficient in other languages, well, it's easier for them to reskill to using Elixir, for example, or other Beam-based language. Last but not least, we have this motto in Beam world that says "Let it crash." But well, it sounds a bit negative actually. Well, if you tell anyone that we let things crash, well, it sounds like we intentionally write code or use technology that promotes crashing or is unstable or something similar. So instead, I recommend to focus on the immediate benefit of this approach, which is the containment of any issues in the system. Or even in simpler words, that if something goes wrong in the system, it affects only a small part of it, like for example, one user, and doesn't bring everything down. I mentioned about being an evangelist. So with this in mind, I intend to find new audiences for the Beam. I attended game dev conferences over past months, seeking for opportunities to tell about our technology, maybe find new opportunities and new people that are eager to learn more. It's challenging. Uh, it's not an easy thing to approach people that actually don't know about Beam, and many of them actually don't want to. Well, people are different, and some of them are perfectly fine with their Java stacks or Python stacks, C++, and so on. But still, it's great to learn about these new approaches. You can, on your own, you can find new areas that you want to evaluate, you want to inspect, different conferences or maybe meetups or events that you can attend and just spread the word. The main thought behind this is to go outside the Erlang bubble. It's great to attend Beam conferences or Lambda days in Krakow, but at the same time, the enthusiasts of the technology are already there, and you don't need to convince anyone to use Beam at these conferences. And it's important to let others know outside our area that the technology is here. It delivers great things, and awesome pieces of software are built with it. So to summarize this part of the presentation, there are a few key action points that I would like to show you. So first of all, use positive language. I'm referring again to the let it crash, for example, but also don't try to, let's say, go defensive. If someone asks questions about Beam being like niche technology and so on, focus on the positive things. Focus on what you can deliver efficiently and nicely and with good quality. What Beam solves that other technologies are trying to solve, for example, copying the same mechanisms in a worse way. Thinking of Java, for example. Another thing is focusing on what you can achieve and improve. It means that when you meet someone, customer, prospect, or just some other developer or attendee at the conference, learn what their problems could be, what they are doing, and suggest what can be done better or more likely, or more rather improved or could work better, how Beam can solve the problems that they have. Also, there is this fine balance that you need to find between praising Beam and the technical details. I'm not telling you that you should avoid the technical details completely. it's just a matter of having like both vocabularies in your head, the less technical one and the strictly technical one, and combine them, use them appropriately to your audience. When someone is less technical, you focus on the benefits and don't really dive into deeply technical terms. If it's someone more technical, well, feel free to use all of the buzzwords that we know. Again, spread the word. It's important to people know about technology because, well, that's something that I already seen at the conferences when I was talking to people, that there are certain companies, in this particular case in game dev, that have very extensive backends. I mean, they have hundreds of microservices deployed. And for example, they are already written in Java. They might be really unwilling to do any radical steps and rewrite everything in different technology that might require a different skill set. If it was a company that has written everything from scratch, or maybe most of it, with this technology, it's more likely that you'll be retained. It's quite difficult to convince someone to rewrite everything, not to Rust, to Beam. So but it's possible. There are cases, case studies that present that some companies choose to rewrite everything into a new technology just to benefit from it and have better working system. But it's not that frequent, to be honest. Last but not least, we have do not dwell on failures, learn from them. I will refer once again to these game dev conferences because I admit when I attended them, especially the first one, uh, people were not so enthusiastic about what I was telling at first, at least. And my first reaction was to just wait through the conference, hide somewhere, and just wait until it ends, and resign from all the meetings because, well, uh, I thought that the reception would be more enthusiastic, and it wasn't as much. I admitted it openly, but then I thought to myself that well, it's pointless to just give up here. I just do what I can, say as much as I can to people that are willing to listen, and see what comes of it. Maybe it won't come in a month or two. Maybe it will something will come out of it in half a year. We'll see. But the important thing is that I'm doing my part to spread the word and that people from outside our bubble, letting them know what Beam is and what you can do to them for them. So that was about the things you could do as a person, like single person on your own. But we usually are part of the team, and what we can or should do as a part of the team in this whole selling process. I said it already. No, I'm not suggesting that we should throw the knowledge as garbage out of our window. This is just another example I want to present. So I want to use a metaphor. One time, like 2 or 3 years ago, I was, or maybe even more into the past. I was performing a migration of a system, like updating the server from a very old version to a modern one. It involved, well, it was pretty complicated. Many internal APIs changed. There were many extensions to be rewritten or adjusted. So it was a complex procedure, complex operation. But overall, it was successful, and the server was launched, and everything was well, except for one thing. We noticed that actually the CPU usage was very high with the new version. And what went wrong, actually? And then, after some investigation, I realized that it's something that I neglected, which was um, the influence of the old client versions. The company had a policy that they want to maintain even very old client versions because they work in an industry where it's pretty much difficult to get everyone up to date, and they had to support old client releases. And some of them some of these clients had a bug that essentially led to something like DDoSing the server. They were sending some request in a loop every couple of seconds, I think, something around that. And fortunately, the new version was so much more efficient that actually it handled this extra load without crashing. So the server worked. So there was no need to roll back. Well, over time we fixed it and just introduced some extra throttling and so on. But what does it have to do with this house and throwing the garbage out the window? So in order to explain to the rest of the team, especially the non-technical part of the team, what I've done and why it was challenging, or what went wrong and why it went wrong, and what could be done to fix it, I used the metaphor of a house that upgrading this server was something like moving uh, inhabitants of a house to a completely new building just overnight, with moving all of their belongings overnight without them even noticing. So it's something like this. And that's the thing. After moving everyone to the new building, we've noticed that actually there was one person that was really misbehaving, and it had a habit of throwing their garbage out of the window, just like that. And the rest of the people in the building, instead of, like, I don't know, talking to this person, or having it change change the behavior, or maybe reporting to the police, or just, well, doing anything, well, they just put the garbage can outside the window. So every garbage that will be thrown out, we just land directly to the trash bin, and they were perfectly happy with it. That's more or less what was done in the old server version. But there was no trash bin outside the window anymore in the new version, and this is what went wrong. And it was an example that the rest of the team understood well. Without the deep technical details, they had the idea what actually had to be done. And my point is, in this example, to explain to you that it's very important to keep your team informed. They need to understand what you're doing, because as a team, you want to deliver something, you want to deliver a solution, consultancy, or product, and so on. If you want to sell it, everyone must understand how it works, what's being done, even if it's on a very high level. You need to give them tools. If they have tools, which is in this case knowledge, they can do their job as well. So now I would like to talk a bit about the process itself, the process of selling a technology, a consultancy, or a product. Well, actually, the base of everything and very important thing is documentation. Just document every opportunity, every prospect that you interact with, and keep all the relevant information in one place. So it includes the original inquiry, meeting notes, suggested work items, estimates, and then finally feedback and conclusion. I know that developers, well, many of them don't really like writing documentation. They just prefer to code. But in this case, it's very important not to just leave anything to memory. Memory can easily fool you, really. And in such an important process as sales, you simply need to keep everything documented to make the process efficient. So everyone can do their job well, just like explained in the previous slide. Then from documentation, we go to meetings. During the meetings, it's very important to keep in mind two things. Be one voice and be transparent. Be one voice means that even if you notice that your teammate says something inaccurate, or he made a small mistake, just resist the urge to correct them immediately. Like, I know it's really a developer thing to just makes things right. Like explain that something works differently, or there's some feature works differently, or there is some other some property of the product that's different, and so on. It's important when talking to a customer to be one voice, to present a single image to the interlocutor, to the audience, but at the same time be transparent. Don't lie. I'm not asking you to lie. Be open about anything that the audience asks. So it can be both of these can be elaborated as don't undermine colleagues' competence. Really, it looks bad. Simple as that. And there's always an occasion to amend things later in writing. For example, after some initial call, you can have a exchange of emails and explain anything that could be unclear or might be slightly off when you are discussing. Um, so it's simply okay to provide this extra information or correction after the meeting in emails or some other means of communication. So again, about transparency, shape the message, but don't lie. Be honest, but make sure that the customer or prospect learns what you would like them to know. At the end of the process, it's very important to review what went well and what went wrong, what could be improved, and above else, review what's being signed. Just to avoid any miscommunication or misconception, it's important to let the technical team review what's being signed, what's in the contract, just to ensure that everyone is on the same page. In order to perform well in this whole process, especially during the meetings, but not only, you need to know thyself. You need to know what your team is capable of, what are the experiences, what may be the highlights of the projects that were done, what are the public case studies. So you need to know about which projects you are allowed to tell about, because some NDAs can be covering some topics. So you must not mention them. But usually you can talk about many of them. So use these examples to impress the interlocutor. Give examples what your team has done well so far. You can also use the third-party cases. So in this aspect, you are not referring to your team experience, but you are referring to the benefits of the technology as a whole. So here are more examples of the companies that use the BIM technologies. I've just borrowed them from our website, from our blog. You can find the QR codes with the links at the bottom, so you can take a look later. And just to read them aloud. For Erlang, we have WhatsApp, very popular case, Cisco, Bet365, Baxter, Vocalink, Elixir, Bleacher Report, Square Enix, Discord, Toyota, PepsiCo, so all kind of verticals. So if anyone just could ask you if BIM or Erlang, for example, is only about telecom, which could be the first thought when they hear the name, when maybe they heard in this context, you can openly say that, okay, it's used in telecom, of course, but well, not far from telecom-like messaging. And not far from that, you have healthcare industry or payments. We have gaming. We have automotive, managing delivery, supply chains, and so on. Like I've said, more examples can be found under these links. So in this case, the key takeaways that I would like you to remember are toolbox for the team. Again, do the knowledge sharing, ensure that your team knows what everyone is doing, understands what everyone is doing, because this is their toolbox to selling further or doing their job. So simply, the knowledge flow is the key here. Ensure the proper documentation. Again, don't trust your memory. It can fail anytime, really, and it's important to have everything written down and agreed on. Tell what you would like the customer to know about. So again, shaping the message. You need to ensure that your message is appropriate for the audience. So the level of technical details or the lack of technical details, but focus on benefits, is appropriate, and you need to focus on the positive sides overall and the benefits. But at the same time, tell what the customer would like to know about. So again, about transparency. Don't lie, don't try to hide things, because well, the technology is great. It can defend for it can defend for itself. So there is no need to hide any possible, I don't know, disadvantages or problems. Be open about them. Yes, it's true that it's not as popular as many mainstream languages, but at the same time, it brings incredible benefits, and it's fun to use, easy to use, effective to use. Be one voice. Again, don't undermine your colleagues. When you are talking to a customer, it's important to present the image of one company that maybe not shares the same mind, because we are individuals after all, but have the same objective, the same goal. And last but not least, memorize the examples. Remember about the case studies. Remember your own case studies and the third-party ones. Remember all of the nice, great pieces of software that were written using the BIM technology. And that's all. Thank you for watching.